The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army.
The reason that we won tonight in New Hampshire, we won last week in Iowa, it's because of the hard work of so many volunteers. And let me say tonight that this victory here is the beginning of the end for Donald Trump.
Frankly, I'd rather run against Bloomberg than Bernie Sanders, because Sanders has real followers, whether you like him or not, whether you agree with him or not. I happen to think it's terrible what he says, but he has followers. Bloomberg's just buying his way in.
That he is. Bloomberg is attempting to buy his way in, but last night that was irrelevant because Bernie Sanders won New Hampshire. Sanders with 26.98% of the vote, Buttigieg with 24.4%, Klobuchar 17.58%, Warren in fourth at 12.29%. Klobuchar had a phenomenal boost from the debate. I mean, I think she brought in, was it $2 million she brought in? So we must turn our vetting eyes to Klobuchar. Biden, it's over. It's a wrap, Biden. Shut down shop and go home and get you some rest. 8.35% for Joe Biden, Tom Steyer 2.91%, and Yang at 2.77%. Last night, Yang suspended his campaign, and I know how difficult that is. So let's just give the Yang gang some time to recuperate and get their wits about them. But there's no other place for them to go. And I'm not saying this in terms of rubbing it in their eyes or in their open wound, but if you want anything remotely like a universal basic income, or if you want Andrew Yang to be a part of the most progressive cabinet in history, there's only one place to go, and that is to Team Bernie Sanders. Don't drop out altogether. Don't just throw away your vote, but consider coming over to Team Bernie Sanders. I want to make something clear. I make no qualms about my support for Bernie Sanders. I have an extensive track record of criticizing and critiquing Senator Sanders. But yet and still, I've been labeled a Bernie bro since 2016. This is not new, regardless of the attention, the new attention that our show is getting. I've been labeled a white Bernie bro since 2016. In fact, we created the hashtag Bernie Made Me White back in 2016, or at least I was in the conversation with the gentleman Leslie Lee III, who coined it, and then we shared it, and it had an impact in 2016 because that's the narrative, right? But I said all that to say I don't apologize. Like it's almost like if you support Bernie Sanders, then all of a sudden you are on the outside, and that's totally cool. I get that, but they also try to make it seem like there's a problem, like there's something wrong with us supporting Bernie Sanders. And I'm only putting the emphasis there because the establishment political machine, the establishment media, all of the establishment players are really, they're furious. They don't know what to do. Bernie Sanders is on the ascendancy. I mean, it's his time, and it's not just him. It is this movement. That's the problem that they're going to have for the rest of their lives. This movement will live beyond Bernie Sanders. A lot of people are tweeting and talking about, oh, he's 78 years old and he just had a heart attack. Yeah, you know what? And he's going to live long enough to go into the White House and pick a vice president who is going to be able to carry on his legacy if he doesn't make it through his first years. But I just think he's young enough and we have technology good enough for him to make it through his first term. And then hell, maybe even his second term. But if he doesn't, the problem that you have on your hand is not Bernie Sanders. The problem that you have on your hands is the fact that we are mobilized, we are organized, and we are small donors, and we are going to keep going no matter what. One of my original critiques of Bernie Sanders was that there was no heir apparent, that there was no bench, there was nowhere to go after him. But that has changed so significantly.
And as someone who has been told to go back, I'm going to tell you, we're moving forward. Forward to a multiracial democracy, forward to guaranteed health care, forward to a living wage, forward to fighting for our neighbors, forward for indigenous rights and honoring sovereignty, forward, forward, forward. That's where we're going to go. We're not going back to the days where people had to hide. We're not going back to the days where people have to worry. We're not going back. We are going forward.
And that's just AOC, right? You got Ilhan Omar, you have Rashida Tlaib, you have so many amazing progressive candidates and that are running now. And honestly, what gave them the impetus to come out was Bernie Sanders. And so he's a Bernie Sanders supporter. You goddamn right I'm a Bernie Sanders supporter, but more importantly, I'm a supporter of the revolution. And to be quite honest with you, it's not that radical of a revolution. You guys are a bunch of babies, right? The establishment you're a bunch of babies spoiled who don't want a modicum of change. Look at how MSNBC is responding to this. I thought for a minute that Lawrence O'Donnell was the good egg, right? And along with Chris Matthews, not Chris Matthews, God, Chris Matthews is not doing well. But Chris Hayes. I used to think that Lawrence O'Donnell was right there with him, but that's not the case. Take a listen to this explanation, this disingenuous explanation of Bernie's he's doing terrible. He's not doing even half as good as he did last time, even though he's winning.
He can't run away with it. Look, last time, 4 years ago, sitting right here, Bernie Sanders won 60% of the vote. We were sitting here and it came in at 60%. He's going to get half that if he's lucky tonight. And by the way, when he won 60% of the vote last year in New Hampshire, that was not enough of a launching pad to actually win the nomination. So the story of the Sanders campaign so far this year is how much ground he's lost from 4 years ago. He's lost half of his support in New Hampshire. He's lost half of his support nationwide. He ran at 49% against Hillary Clinton nationwide last time. He's running about 25% nationwide.
You disingenuous hack. Because I know you're a smart guy, Lawrence O'Donnell. I know you are very intelligent. So you're just filling the role of the corporate shield at this point. And here I was all this time thinking that you were above the fray and that maybe I don't watch your show enough to actually give you that much credit. But the snippets that I see of you online made me believe that you were above the fray. But this clip right here, I mean, how disingenuous can you be? He ran against one person last time. There's like 30 dozen people in the race right now, and he's still winning. But don't take my word for it. Listen to this MSNBC viewer who peeped game also.
Yes, but I want to say the reason I went for Bernie is because of MSNBC. And
go on.
I think it is completely cynical to say that he's lost 50% of his vote from the last time when there were two candidates. Now there are multiple wonderful candidates who would be great presidents and people that I think that we can unify and get behind. But the kind of the stop Bernie cynicism that I heard from a number of people, I watch MSNBC constantly, so I heard that from a number of commentators, and so it made me angry enough. I said, okay, Bernie's got my vote.
This is such an interesting point. What you're saying is, and we take criticism because we're journalists, right? We ought to be open-minded. You're saying that hearing from people, whether it's guests, contributors, the conversations you've heard, that you felt were designed to tear down Senator Sanders or quote-unquote stop him, actually endeared him to you.
Absolutely. I could have chosen several candidates, but that's what pushed me over the edge for Bernie.
Yeah, thank you, MSNBC. We appreciate your services. Because not everyone is going to fall for your hackery. Some people have the intelligence to see and be above the fray. And for those people who are consumed, it's not that they don't have the intelligence. Let me correct myself. It's that they just actually probably don't have the bandwidth to sort and decipher through the bullshit that you give them on a regular basis. It's a shame that in this era of Trump, MSNBC has decided to, instead of doing like Fox News, whenever they weren't in power, they ran so far to the right to satisfy their base and to mobilize their base. But instead, MSNBC is doing this thing where they're trying to be the opposition, but can't quite be the full opposition because, you know, when Donald Trump starts shooting those missiles, you got Brian Williams, who's like, you know, I stand in awe at the beauty of our missiles. You know, so they have this weird place that they're trying to hold. It's the same weird position that the Democratic establishment is trying to hold, which is to be a opposition to the Republican Party, when in reality, they're in bed with some of the same donors, the same corporate sponsors, the same ideology with regard to economics. The only difference is a shade of difference, a few degrees of separation in terms of their social policy. But I digress. Going back to the New Hampshire victory last night, everyone was trying to spin this. I mean, you have headlines from Reuters. They have Amy Klobuchar. They have a picture of Amy Klobuchar and a picture of Pete Buttigieg, who came in second, and Klobuchar in third, but somehow mysteriously did not include Bernie Sanders, the person who won. But that's okay. Because what's going to happen is all these people who are on the outside trying to stop Bernie Sanders from winning, they're going to turn around and be kissing his ass really soon, particularly in the media. Now, to all of the voters of other candidates, we don't expect that you will kiss our ass. We're going to open our arms. Our arms are wide open with nothing but love, with nothing but, you know, just solidarity. We want you to come over here to our side because we believe in what you believe in. We've had differences, but as far as the media is concerned, they can kiss our progressive asses.
Bernie Sanders is a phenomenon. He doesn't get any attention. People don't talk about him. He just continues to rack up these big numbers, these big margins. And he's doing stuff that we don't talk about enough. He's appealing to young people and people of color increasingly, and women, and the beer track voters that, you know, people talk about for Biden. They're showing up for Bernie Sanders. He's got an army of unbelievable donors. If anybody else had all that, we'd be saying, this guy's our guy. For whatever reason, we continue to talk about everybody but Bernie Sanders.
Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got over 100 new patrons last night, and I can't possibly read them all. But damn it if I don't try. Welcome to part one of the patron party. Very special welcome to Matthew Craven, Sean, Chicago Hunt, Theron Seats, Isaac Rethy, Yayla, John Hames, Samuel Stern, Margaret Garcia, Kyle Houston, Ariel Stone, Robert R., Gerard M.W., Mike Sharp, Adam, John Weisenbaker, R2 Walker, Ranger Jenny, Luke, Richard Duff, Ricardo Vital, Asney, Linda Q. Can't pronounce that last name, Linda. John W. Pedro Larius is so many. Very special welcome to Joseph Villard, John Loeffler, or Loeffler. Very special welcome to Jason Navarro, Liam Common, Clayton, Lemmy, Henrik E. That's all I could try, Henrik. Michael Oliver, very special welcome to my dog, Henry Green. We grew up together in Pompano Beach, Florida. Very special welcome to Jawad Towns, Dan Blyer, Stuart Reed, David Balfour. Ooh, I massacred that one. I'm sorry, David. Very special welcome to Allison, Monica Lane, David Raymond, Janie Fleming, Stephen Watkins, John L., Francois Gilliam. And that is just part one of the patron party. I'll be back later on in the show with the rest of the patrons. But I do want to thank everyone for all of the overwhelming outpouring of support with what happened yesterday, with the story that we broke here on this podcast. We broke national news on this podcast with Michael Bloomberg, the video or the audio that I found and released. And yesterday was an interesting day. CNN and a couple of people came after me, which is fine, right? That, like, I don't think they understand. No, of course, they would have no way of knowing that I'm the one. I'm the one that I waited. Oh, thank you for coming after me. But more importantly than my own hubris, I want to thank you, the supporters who had my back. You had my back online. You represented from Instagram all the way over to Twitter to Facebook. Everyone really had our back here, and thank you so much. And then some of you, a whole lot of you, came and became supporters of the show because of the work that we did with Michael Bloomberg. And thank you so much. Thank you so much for becoming a part of the dopest political podcast in the game. And there's so much more that we do, and so much more that you being a patron allows us to do in terms of video. We blew past the 500 goal. So yes, there will be live video, but I didn't expect to go past it in one day. So give me till like Monday. We'll get this live show going on YouTube. And if you want to support what we're doing here, it's one man, one show, and you, the patron. One man, one microphone, and you, the supporter. Go to www.patreon.com/the BPD show and become a patron today. Take a listen to this clip of how CNN decided to address the Bloomberg issue.
The way you get the guns out of the kids' hands is to throw them against the wall and frisk them.
So here's the thing. Important context here. We don't have the full tape. So this is obviously snippets that have been released. The podcaster and the writer that released this sound is clearly a Bernie supporter. If you look at his Twitter feed, he's very anti-Bloomberg. He is promoting a hashtag, Bloomberg is a racist. We don't know how he got the sound to begin with. So lots of questions are being asked, especially on the timing of this. As you noted in your introduction, a poll yesterday shows Bloomberg rising in the polls and particularly strong support in the African-American community. He polled at 22%, just behind Joe Biden at 27%. So the timing here and the mission here all calling into question.
We also know, right, Christina, that Bloomberg is going to face continued questions about his about the stop and frisk policy.
Okay, so the first voice that you heard obviously was Bloomberg and the clip that we resurfaced. The second voice that you heard was that of Christina Alessi, who there's so many questions. There's so many questions that we don't have answered, and we don't know how he got access. Well, you know how I got access to the clip. I researched. What Christina didn't tell you is that she was a former employee of Bloomberg News. She was an anchor for Bloomberg News. And so instead of addressing the substance of what was said, or even addressing the fundamental question of whether or not that was Bloomberg, right? Was he going to deny? Is it him? If it's not him, then that's an even bigger story. I mean, they could have crushed my tiny little career if I was wrong, but I wasn't. And the reason I wasn't wrong is because I did what journalists do. I got a piece of evidence. I got this clip, and I cross-referenced several sites to make sure that this was exactly Michael Bloomberg. Of course, it sounded like Michael Bloomberg as soon as I heard it. But I needed something else to stand on. So I got multiple articles that had every word transcribed just about word for word. And so I did some very basic research. But see, Christina wasn't there. And this is what the mainstream media does. And shame on CNN for allowing and giving voice to that, right? For amplifying that. Because what she did was she went on there to be nothing but a paid hack for Michael Bloomberg. And that's the problem with this presidency campaign, the campaign he's running to become president, right? The problem is that he's just buying people. None of these people probably believe in Michael Bloomberg whatsoever. They believe in the money that he's paying them. None of them believe that anything he says is going to be remotely good for working people, especially when he's out here saying stuff like this.
I, for example, am not in favor, have never been in favor of raising the minimum wage.
I mean, and when minimum wage, if it had kept up with inflation, should be $22 an hour. And what the minimum wage, the federal minimum wage is $7.15. And yet you have a guy running for president who has never thought we should raise the minimum wage. Never mind everything else that he believes, and never mind the fact that he's running simply to preserve his tax breaks, right? To preserve his wealth. So I don't believe that any of these people who are actually working for Bloomberg believe in him. They believe in the cash that he's pouring into his hands, which brings me to the other side of this. If you want to dismiss me as a Bernie bro, that's fine, right? If you want to dismiss me as a progressive activist, that's even better, because now it's time for us to get active. We're not done with Michael Bloomberg. We're not. When I reported what I reported, if you look at the thread, I gave you just the facts in the first article and the second article, the first post and the second post, the post where I posted the video and the post where I posted the article. To be extremely redundant this morning, it's not even 6 o'clock in the morning yet. So my brain is not particularly sharp, but I digress. The point is, tweet number 1 and tweet number 2, pure reporting, didn't give my commentary till tweet 3. And so now in this whole conversation, I'm about to show you a Bernie bro. I'm about to show you a progressive activist because it's not over. It's not over because he has yet to be held accountable for his words. Did you see the press release? Let me read for you his excuse. Let me read for you his justification and what people are calling an apology. And what's sickening about this is that people fall for this drivel. This is not an apology. This is nothing more than him trying to distract from what he said in Aspen in 2015. This was his statement. This is what he released. He said, President Trump's deleted tweet is the latest example of his endless efforts to divide Americans. I inherited the police practice of stop and frisk, and as a part of our effort to stop gun violence, it was overused. By the time I left office, I cut it back by 95%, but I should have done it faster and sooner. I regret that, and I have apologized. I have taken responsibility for taking too long to understand the impact it had on Black and Latino communities. But this issue and my comments about it do not reflect my commitment to criminal justice, blah, blah, blah. In contrast, President Trump inherited a country marching towards greater equality and divided us with racist appeals and hateful rhetoric. The challenge of the moment is clear. We must confront this president and do everything we can to defeat him. The president's attack on me clearly reflects his fear over the growing strength of my campaign. Make no mistake, Mr. President, I am not afraid of you, blah, blah, blah. No. This was not an attack from President Trump. As much and as disgusting as Donald Trump is, and as much as we need to get rid of him, this was not an attack by Donald Trump. This was millions of people who understand your legacy, who understand what you did in New York, who understand who you are and how you're trying to buy this election. So stop trying to deflect with Donald Trump. That is not going to work, but that's fine. You didn't give an apology. And there's so many things wrong with this statement, inherently wrong with this statement. He did not voluntarily roll back stop and frisk. He was ordered by the courts to do so. Lie. You're already lying to us, right? And he did not just inherit it and kept it. No, he inherited it and increased it like by 600%. And now he's trying to say, oh, it's Donald Trump. No, it's not Donald Trump. It's the people. And so since CNN summarily dismissed me basically as nothing more than a progressive activist, let's shift gears from reporting like we did with the original tweet that now 7 million people have seen to activism. We need to have every person who endorsed this man, Michael Bloomberg, they must be held accountable because they must either admit that they are okay with this man's record as well as his words, or they need to rescind and retract their endorsement. And so that's what we're going to do today. We're going to do that because it's not just enough for us to get a news cycle. This wasn't about getting a news cycle. It is about stopping Michael Bloomberg. There's nothing to apologize for that because he's an oligarch who's trying to purchase this election. And he's an oligarch with an extremely racist past. Here's the thing that I said, and I'm writing an article about this today. If you listen to the clip, which I'm not going to play again just because it's horrible audio, but in the clip, he outlines his worldview and he outlines his governing principle, right? His worldview of young Black and brown men. And he views them in a way that is deeply rooted in racism and fear mongering and the dehumanization of these young boys. And he views his governing principle that he outlined in this was that the solution is to bring in the troops. He did not, his governing principle was not to address the underlying problems and the causes of violence, which is extremely connected, correlated to poverty. No, his governing principle is that you bring in the troops and you crush the people into submission. You don't address the underlying problem, poverty, you crush them. And so that's what's really problematic about this. And that's why his apology is so not acceptable. It's insufficient. It's insufficient because it does not reflect the amount of thinking or the thoughtfulness that went into his worldview, that he crafted. What he believes about young black and brown men is so problematic because it is so thought out. He has taken the time to rationalize his racism. And then he gives us a pittance of an apology that he put no thought into. No, if you want to really stay in this race, you need to think about how your worldview was wrong, Mr. Bloomberg, and how your worldview was problematic and how your worldview hurt so many people. But until such time, we have to have a conversation with the people who have endorsed you. Okay. All right. Lord, I've got so many more patrons to read and I don't even know if I have enough time. So we're going to do the patron party over a series of days for me to catch up, mainly because I am getting ready to head to the television studio to do an appearance on Democracy Now! So you can catch me on Democracy Now! At 8:00 Eastern time this morning. I'm getting this out early enough to you. Patrons, your full episode. You know, we normally do a full episode that goes past the music. There is no full episode past the music today because I just didn't wake up early enough to get this out, to get the full show out to you. But I will circle back and I will do something for all of the new patrons to make sure that your contribution is recognized. Everyone, check me out on Democracy Now! When I'm done with that, I'll be speaking to Jacobin and a couple of other appearances, blah, blah, blah. But when we get back, we're getting to work. This is not over. We've got work to do. I'll see everyone tomorrow.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show. If you like this episode, be sure to share, like, and subscribe.